Our next guest speaker, if you haven't heard about BIG, Barstow International Gateway, I'd like to invite Lena Kent, Executive Director, Public Affairs for BNSF Railway, to talk about the exciting news in Barstow. Lena.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. I'm super excited to be here. Some of you know that I was supposed to be here last year and was whisked away in the middle of the night for an emergency, and Cody here in the front with Barstow had to step in and fill in for me. And I'm sure at that moment he thought he was being punked. Like, BNSF shows up, talks about this big project, and then they don't see me again for a while. So fortunately, I was not punking him. We are very serious about this project, and I'm really excited to be here with you today to talk about it. So first, a little bit of information about BNSF and who we are. We're a Berkshire Hathaway company. We operate in 28 states and 3 Canadian provinces. I'm sure many of you have seen our locomotives and our trains moving through the Cajon Pass and up through the high desert. Our locomotives are the beautiful orange ones and not the yellow ones. We operate about 32,500 miles of track and have hundreds of trains moving all over the country at any given moment. The goods that we're moving are many of the goods that the nation depends on a day-to-day basis. Your electronics, all your TVs, your tennis shoes, a lot of your food supplies. All of that is moving on one of our trains by one of several of our great employees who are working really hard to make all of that happen. So I know many of you recall, it seems like it was forever ago that we had the supply chain crisis. There were 120 ships sitting out at the ports waiting to get in to offload cargo. There were people in Iowa who couldn't get toilet paper on the shelf because we were all buying multiple bundles of it and running out of Costco as fast as we could with it. And you had both trains, trucks, warehouses, the ports. Everybody was backed up as we tried to deal with this crisis that we were being dealt with everybody suddenly going online and buying all of these goods. At that time, both the state of California and also the federal government was obviously reaching out to all of the stakeholders saying, hey, what can you do to try to help in this situation? We have always felt like the high desert was a place that we would grow, continue to grow in. We've obviously had a long presence here in the high desert and throughout Southern California. We've operated here since the late 1800s. And so we knew it was a place that we wanted to grow, but that is where things really started to come together in this idea to eventually build something new here in the high desert. So first, before I get into what that is, and many of you I'm sure already have heard about it, but before I get into the details of that project, I want to talk a little bit about how things currently work at the ports of LA and Long Beach. So containers come in through the ports, and they will be offloaded onto the ship, onto the dock. And then they will pile up on the dock, and then from there, they will either move by train or they'll move by truck. If they move by train, they'll be loaded directly on at the ports, and they will make their way through the area, up through the Cajon Pass to destinations east. Many of those containers, however, though, are either trucked to our downtown Los Angeles facility, or they're trucked to a warehouse, or they may stay right here in Southern California for local distribution. If they are trucked to a warehouse, the warehouse will take that container in. Many of those warehouses are in the Inland Empire, but really they're spread throughout Southern California. But that truck will take that container to that warehouse. They'll offload the container, they'll take out the contents of it, and then they'll repackage it into what we consider a 53-foot container. That container will then be picked up at that warehouse by a truck. They'll take it to a downtown warehouse, our downtown rail yard, where we will then load it onto a train and bring it right back up through the high desert. Not super efficient, as you could imagine. Obviously, it increases congestion on our local highways as that truck is moving from the ports to the Inland Empire, back to downtown Los Angeles. Then you load it onto a train, and it moves right back up through the high desert. Obviously, the supply chain delays. One thing that we hear consistently from our customers is, how do we move this just a little bit quicker? We can't afford the delays. People, when they hit that button on the computer, they expect that Amazon package to show up that same day. And if you're an hour late, you're getting bad reviews. It's not a good thing. So people want their things much quicker than they did in the past. So certainly there's a lot of delays associated with all of the moves that take place there, in addition to all the congestion that takes place. So here's where this idea was born. I would say for many, many years, we've been asked to build some type of facility in the Inland Empire where containers would be moved by rail to the Inland Empire, be offloaded in the Inland Empire, and would go for local distribution. That has never really made a lot of sense to us. It's really difficult for us to move a container a very short distance. Where it really makes sense for us is when we can move that container over the long haul to destinations to the interior of the country and as far as New York. And so we started, when the supply chain crisis hit, we started to really think about how we could help here. And so we proposed to build a $1.5 billion facility, and I would emphasize that that's conservative on the 1.5 facility here in the high desert. And I'll get into a little bit about how that will work, but basically containers will move from the ports of LA and Long Beach by train to the high desert, and we will transload them here at the new Barstow facility, and I'll get into a little bit how that will work. The facility sits on about, it says 4,500, it's growing, it's about 4,600 acres now because we're working on acquiring some additional property to put in a solar farm to help support what we'll be doing there. So it is a fully integrated facility. There is no other facility like this in the world. This is the first of its kind. And what makes it different is we will actually be able to rail those containers to Barstow. We will offload the containers. They will move by an electric truck, or we call it a hostler, within the footprint of the facility to the on-site warehouse, where that container would then be transloaded directly at the warehouse that's on site. And then once it's transloaded, it would move back to the rail component of the facility, be loaded onto a train, and move to destinations across the country. The goal is to not put that container on the highway. Will there be a small percentage that will go by highway? Yes. Maybe there's a container that misses the train at the ports and needs to get to Barstow quickly. But the goal here is to move it all by rail. I think that's really important for all of you that live here and that work in this area, because for those of you that are commuting on the 15 freeway, coming back and forth from the Inland Empire and so forth, I think we can all agree anything we can do to reduce congestion on that freeway is a good thing for all of us. So the goal again is to move it all by rail here to the Barstow facility. So it'll also have another component of the facility. It'll have a block swap, and you kind of go, what's a block swap? It took me a while to kind of figure out, okay, what are we talking about here? But a block swap facility, all of these, I think it's important to mention that all of these containers that we're going to be processing in Barstow are already moving on our rail lines up through the high desert, are moving through Barstow. We're just going to process them differently in Barstow instead of having them processed down the hill. But the block swap facility will have trains that will come in from the Inland Empire, will come in from Northern California. We'll consolidate those trains at the block swap. So we'll have longer trains there at the facility where we'll be able to build those trains to move them across the country. We can't build really long trains coming up through the ports now because we just don't have sidings, we don't have the infrastructure. It'd be really difficult for us to do that in the basin. So it will all be done at the Barstow facility. Obviously, we'll have that intermodal component of it. That's where we'll be able to have the cranes, the hybrid type cranes that will lift containers on and off of the train. And then we will have the solar farm that will help support it. Just to give you a little fun fact, our existing Barstow facility uses about 1 kilowatt of electricity. The new Barstow facility will use about 66 kilowatts of electricity, so a significant increase from what we currently use today at our existing facility. And that's because of the on-site warehouses. We'll have electric hostlers to move containers in and around, the electric hybrid cranes. That does not take into consideration the state's goal to move everything electric with electric locomotives. And so we'll get into that in just a second because I think that's something really important for all of us to talk about. But in order to support that 66 megawatts of electricity, we'll have to have that solar farm to help support it as well. So that's something that we're working on, acquiring additional property to do that. So again, just so you kind of get a sense of how this is going to work, containers at the ports will be loaded there. We will move them up through the high desert. We will take them directly into the facility, offloaded, taken to the warehouse on site, brought back to the intermodal facility, and taken out of the region via rail. So definitely much more efficient than what we're seeing currently today. I'm going to show you a quick video, and you'll hear from some of our folks, and just as this vision was coming together, and then we'll continue to get into more of the details of it.
BIG is our Barstow International Gateway, and in many ways it's an exciting evolution of what Barstow's role has always been to BNSF Railway, and that's connecting one side of the nation's supply chain to the rest of the country.
Barstow International Gateway is uniquely located at the west end of our southern transcon, where our railroad splits, which essentially will allow it to serve Northern California and the Southern California basin.
The vision for this particular location is to help relieve some of the congestion that has taken place at the ports of LA and Long Beach that really started once COVID hit.
BIG is a catalyst for a more sustainable freight system. It's a project that's going to enable our customers to move more of their containers and trailers right on trains to the facility rather than going by truck to transload facilities. The net result, less emissions, less congestion, benefit for our customers and for the communities where we operate.
BIG is going to have both a switching yard as well as an intermodal facility. And so the switching yard is going to allow for more efficient consolidation of import traffic coming from the ports that doesn't need to be unloaded or transloaded, but for movement into the interior. It's going to create a very efficient transloading environment. And we know that supply chains want to transload more cargo from ocean containers into domestic 53-foot containers. This is going to be a very efficient inland point to do that.
So this facility, both a transload and an intermodal facility with adjacent transload warehouses, is going to have solar power on top of the warehouses. We're going to have battery electric yard trucks and also battery electric trucks that are moving from the rail facility to the warehouses for the transload and back. So we're basically eliminating a lot of the emissions with zero emissions technology at the facility. There's real benefits there for the community by operating in that manner. We have a broader commitment to reducing our impact on the environment, including a commitment to reduce carbon by 30% by 2030. So BIG is really an essential element and a catalyst for that more sustainable freight system and reducing our carbon emissions.
Barstow International Gateway, BIG. It is big in terms of its economic impact. It's big in terms of its jobs, both the indirect and the direct jobs. It's big in terms of the quality of life that it's going to offer our Barstow residents.
What'll happen at BIG is it'll consolidate many of the handoffs and transitions throughout the supply chain into one consolidated, simplified, and integrated ecosystem.
Now we'll see if we can get it onto the next slide. But as we're trying to do that, let me just give you a few highlights about what the project will bring in terms of economic benefits. So the project's estimated to bring about 20,000 direct and indirect jobs. And obviously, that is a huge number of jobs that will be created as a result of this. And you may wonder, I know for us, like, the first thing that we thought about is where are all of these people going to come from? And I think we believe that there's a lot of people that are now currently driving down the hill to work. It is our goal to see those people stay up here in the high desert, reduce their time on the freeway, work closer to home, and hopefully get more time to spend with their families because they're not spending those few hours on the freeway back and forth down the hill to work. So certainly going to create a lot of jobs on that front. I mean, we're building a city within a city, and we need a lot of people. I think one thing that we are very dedicated to doing is working with the local colleges, with the high schools, to get people ready for the jobs that will come as a result of this project. We know we need to start that now, and we've already begun those conversations with the local college. I'm also a big believer, let's get our kids ready that are in the high schools. Let's get them ready and give them opportunities for those that don't necessarily want to go to college, that want to stay right here and work. And for those that want to go to college, come back. There's going to be some great jobs for you right here in the high desert. Obviously reducing a number of trucks on the highway. Each one of our trains takes about 400 trucks off of the highway. So it significantly reduces the movement by trucks. And most of that benefit you'll see down in the basin, because those trains, again, they were already transloaded in the basin, and you were already seeing that train traffic come up here. So you're not going to see a significant amount of, or an increase in train traffic. You'll see the reduction of the truck traffic, though, down the hill, most definitely. And certainly also, I think it helps from fluidity and helping with our supply chain crisis. Why Barstow? Why did we decide to go there? I mean, we were really looking for a place to try to do things different than what you've seen in other locations. We have an opportunity to build in a location that's not densely populated. Yes, there were some homes around that area, and we had to work with, and we've been working with those landowners. But to build it in a location where we had adequate space, where it was next to our right-of-way. I mean, it's not easy to come up with 4,600 acres. It's basically 7 square miles where we'll be, where this facility will sit, and the size of it. And also a place where we knew that we could help grow a region and have a good relationship. And I will tell you that the response that we've received locally in the high desert from the Barstow community, from the county, has been tremendous. I don't know that we would be as far as we are today without the support that we've received today. I mean, it's been really welcoming and honestly a breath of fresh air for us compared to different things that have happened down in the Southern California basin. I'm going to skip this one and just let you know, given the interest of time, we have really been out there, and we've been trying to communicate this project as widely as we can. I've had the opportunity to just meet some incredible people in Barstow and talk about what this project is going to mean, but more importantly, to hear from them on what they wanted to see incorporated into the project. I had a chance to go meet with all the churches, with the hospital, with the emergency responders, with our youth, our high school kids, as well as those that work in youth sports. So I've gotten some tremendous feedback from them that we've been able to incorporate into this project. I will tell you, though, for all of the developers that are here today, the number one thing that many of them want to see in the high desert or in Barstow is a Chick-fil-A. So if you have the ability to do that, please do that. I know my time is up, but they told me I could finish my presentation because there's something that I think is really important for you all to hear as I wrap this up. So we're currently going through scoping. It's due March, your comments are due March 26, just in timing for this project. We hope to have our draft EIR out on the street the first quarter of 2024 or 2025, and the final out by the end of 2025. And we're hoping for a favorable vote from the city of Barstow on the project. They are the lead agency on it. And then if we get that favorable vote, we will start construction immediately, and it'll be a 3-year construction period. So we are signing project labor agreements. We will have a robust union workforce that will be here to build the facility. So it's about 3,000 construction jobs in addition to the 20,000 direct and indirect jobs that will come as a result of this. And I can tell you, for the housing group that came right before me, we have heard it over and over again. We need more housing here to support these jobs and the construction workers that will be coming. So extremely important for our customers to know that there's adequate housing for their workforce and an adequately trained workforce to go to work as when it opens. So opening day is 2028. I know it's aggressive, but we believe that, we're pushing hard, and we believe that we can make that happen. There is one issue that has arisen that I'm going to ask all of you for your help on. If you believe in this project, you think it's a good project, and you want to see it happen, California Resources Board put a new rule into effect January 1st of 2024. Basically, that rule says that by 2035, all of our locomotives need to be electric locomotives. I hate to tell everybody this, although we've been doing our best to test out electric locomotives, we do not have an electric locomotive that works or that's been tested. So it's an impossible task for us to be able to do. Also, by 2030, none of our locomotives that are 23 years old or older can operate in the state. Even if they've been remanufactured and they have a brand new engine in them, they cannot operate in the state. I'd say the final kicker is, starting in 2026, both BNSF and Union Pacific will be required to put up to $800 million each year into a fund that CARB will manage, and when electric locomotives are available to be purchased, they will be able to go out and purchase them. Close to $1 billion is a third of what our company spends on our entire capital network across the entire United States and 3 Canadian provinces. It is an impossible task for us to be able to do. And so we have informed CARB, and we're also in the process of letting the EPA know. CARB can't enforce this rule unless the EPA gives them a waiver, and EPA is currently considering that and is taking public comment on it. And, but we've let the state know that if that were to go through and be implemented, that BNSF will not be able to build this project. It financially would not be feasible, and we don't even know how much we'd be able to operate in the state of California. So I'm going to ask all of you, if you could take out your phones, please, please take that link and sign up for the campaign and send EPA and CARB a note letting them know how devastating this would be for our entire region to implement a rule that's quite honestly not feasible. That's not to say, though, that we are not committed to clean technology. You saw from the PowerPoint presentation that we are investing in electric hostlers, electric hybrid cranes. We are doing everything we can to build the cleanest facility possible. Unfortunately, the technology that they're asking us to implement for this just does not exist yet. So I appreciate all of your support. If you have questions, if you want to talk about the project, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. And again, appreciate all your support and appreciate the support of the city, the county, the state, as well as the federal government as we work to bring what I think is one of the most exciting projects we've seen in the transportation industry and very transformative for our business. So again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.